What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here, and this is the Blacklist Season 10, Episode 4, The Hyena. So this one was okay. I feel like the Blacklister and what this episode was about was maybe a little predictable. You've got these three sisters. All three of them are going to have some part of the key. You got the Hyena trying to track down the sisters and get the information. Meanwhile, Reddington's working with Vesco to try to get it, and I don't know. It all seemed kind of, yeah, Reddington's going to get it at the end. Probably, more than likely. Don't know what that's going to mean. Don't know what he's going to do with it, but I'm sure he's going to get it. I'm sure one of the sisters is probably the one that hired the Hyena, because we see him talking to somebody that hired him at some point. And you think about it, how else would he get this information? Well, obviously, somebody who knows about it told him. Probably one of the sisters then. So, in my mind, I felt like it was a little obvious, and I don't know if that's just from my knowledge of the Blacklist or from my knowledge of typical kind of mystery type stuff. But again, I'm thinking one of the sisters hired him. So you've got the one that the team goes and talks to first, which she's the first one that dies. So kind of wrote her off pretty quickly because of that. I mean, obviously, I don't think he would kill the person that hired him. Then they meet the one that's a little bit paranoid, and then the one that's over in another country. The one that was paranoid seemed very genuine, I guess. It didn't feel like it was, oh, I'm so scared, but in reality, I feel like some shows would have done that and made it where she's acting all paranoid because she's scared of all of this stuff that's out there to get her. But in reality, she's acting this way because she doesn't want other people to come in and talk to her because she's doing secretly evil stuff. But whenever they started talking to the one sister that lived in another country, and especially when Sia started talking to her, and she had that whole speech, in my mind, she was all, oh yeah, I really wanted to work together, but then Kendall didn't want to, and I really wish we could have done it together. I'm just thinking, yeah, okay, so she's the one that did it. You're making her seem all innocent and good, and like she's the kind-hearted one of the group, so she's the one that hired the Hyena, right? Yes? Okay, well, there we go then. I guess we're doing this old cliche again. So there are elements of it that were enjoyable. I enjoyed Reddington and Vesco going through and figuring out all the clues, all of that. Whenever Reddington points out the actual final clue, because the sister that hired the Hyena thought she had destroyed the correct clue when in fact she got it wrong. I thought that was a nice or a pretty fun and I guess interesting moment as well. But that for me was not where my interest is at the end of this episode. I feel like a lot of that was just sort of noise that happened. I'm like, okay, I'm watching this to watch it. This doesn't feel like it's going to be that important. But what it leads to is so Reddington splits his shares of this giant bank account, which I'm sure will help him because it seems like he might possibly have lost his empire. I don't know how that would happen. I don't know why that would happen, but it doesn't seem like he has money at the moment, so I guess this might help him. But he gives half to himself, half to Vesco, which of course Vesco then says, let's give a third of it to the one sister that's been through a lot and seems the most innocent out of all three of them. But then Vesco gets approached by Wu Jing. Now, the thing is, I don't know where that is going to go. Because Reddington, when he's talking to Cooper, talking about how the days of betrayal between him and Vesco are in the past, it kind of feels like it's setting up for, oh, he might betray him. I don't really know for sure, because I feel like if Vesco goes in and, I guess, joins Wu Jing, but he's actually doing it to spy for Reddington, we've seen this in this show before, where, oh, hey, I'm working with the bad guys, but not really, I'm helping Reddington. We've seen this happen before. In fact, in my rewatch of the first two seasons, there were a couple moments where that happened in the first two seasons where, hey, yeah, we need to betray Reddington. Actually, just kidding, I'm working for him. I wanted to see if you were going to betray him or not, so you failed the test. It's happened. We've seen this story done. So, in my mind, it feels like it would be too obvious if Robert was like, yeah, I'll join Wu Jing, and then halfway through the season he's like, actually, I was working for Reddington the whole time. So my mind is more so, I feel like Reddington knows who is on the list that Wu Jing has from Gerard. I feel like he knows the names that Marvin Gerard gave him. And he would know that Vesco would be on that list. Because, yeah, he's betrayed Vesco in the past. Vesco is somebody who has betrayed Reddington in the past. So it makes sense that, that would be somebody Wu Jing would turn to. I almost wonder if he did this knowing Vesco would take that bait, would take the chance to betray him because of what happened with Dembe arresting him and all of that, and planted him there not to be working for him, but maybe gave him some device or something that is going to spy for him. Some sort of mic or video camera that's on his person now that is going to spy for him. I feel like that seems like it would be more interesting than Robert saying, "Yeah, I'll join you, Wu Jing," and then it turns out he's just been a spy for Reddington. That seems too easy for me. And even then, even if they do that and then it turns out Vesco is like, "Nah, just kidding, I wasn't working for you. I actually did like Wu Jing's offer, so I took that and betrayed you." That also would feel very done to death. So I'm kind of hoping it is Vesco sees this, goes, "You know what? I don't necessarily want to hurt him, but he does deserve a little bit of payback for what happened." So maybe Wu Jing, because I don't think if Wu Jing was like, "Hey, we're trying to kill him," I don't think Vesco would be like, "Yeah, sure, let's kill him." I don't think he wants Reddington dead, but I do think there's a little bit of that animosity between the two of them, where if Wu Jing presented it as, "No, we're going to destroy his empire. We're going to take him down, make him nothing," I think Vesco might be more okay with that and might be willing to join for that. Or there's the third option of Vesco just turns him down, and then I don't know what that would mean going forward for Vesco. But I do feel like this, getting Vesco out of prison, this was part of Reddington's plan. He knew Wu Jing would approach him. I feel like that's very likely, that Vesco is part of this plan to get an eye inside of Wu Jing's operations and figure out what he is up to. Again, the uncertainty is Vesco going to be working for Reddington, or is Reddington going to just use him knowing he would betray him? I don't know for sure. But yeah, I think it's another good episode. It's not the best. The Blacklister and the story with the treasure hunt and all of that stuff was just sort of it was okay. Wasn't great. Definitely not one of my favorite episodes. But the story they're building on the outside, it kind of reminds me of the 9th season, where some of the Blacklisters were not the most interesting, or the story surrounding them was not that interesting, but the story that was being built on the outside, the idea that somebody had betrayed Reddington and gotten Liz killed, and trying to find out who did it, what was going on with Cooper, him being framed for a murder, all of that was very interesting. So the fact that some of the Blacklisters were not that interesting, I felt like it was okay. I felt like it was a good balance that kept me invested in the season. So that's kind of how I feel with this one. I'm not really invested in the Blacklister or that story, but I'm more invested in what's going to happen with Vesco, Wu Jing, and Reddington. What is going to transpire there. So yeah, that's about all my thoughts for this one. So on to the next one. I'll see you there. And now episode 5, The Dockery Affair. I hate to say it, but this is the worst episode of the season so far for me. Mostly because it's predictable as hell. And first of all, I called who killed the judge right away. Right away. I mean, as soon as they were interviewing all those people, and the guy was like, "Oh yeah, I mean, she helped me. She helped me become a better man." I'm like, he did it. He did it. They did this last season. They had somebody who was all like, "Oh, they're so amazing or important," and then they turned out to be the one that killed him. I'm pretty sure that was last season. So I'm thinking of something else. But it's so obvious. Anytime you have somebody come in and be all like, "Oh yeah, that person that died, they were so amazing. Like what they did is just so fantastic." And granted, most of the time they don't mean it. Most of the time they say that to make it seem like they're not guilty. This guy actually did mean it, but he still killed her. It was obvious. It was so obvious. They even had the one guy at the end that acted all creepy. It was the dentist, I think. And he was acting... I honestly thought they were going to suspect him for a little bit, but they didn't. But he came in acting all like, "Oh, yeah. I mean, blah, blah." I don't even remember what the whole thing was about. Because the thing is, I kind of stopped listening after that one guy came in. I know that guy was a dentist. I know the woman in the middle. That I don't even know what that one was about. That was just the most random thing talking about. Oh, I thought he was doing naughty stuff like porn on his computer. Turns out he was doing not the fun naughty stuff. What? Is that supposed to be funny? Like, and the other thing about it too, outside of being stupidly predictable with that, is they start talking to Herbie more, which could be fun. I've liked Herbie so far. His scenes with Reddington taking care of his baby and all of that, and how appreciative he's been because Reddington has helped him because he's trying to be a stay-at-home dad but not doing very well with it because he's doesn't seem like the greatest with kids. And so Reddington coming in and helping him and him that whole thing has been pretty funny so far. And this one, it's almost like they took those funny elements and it's like they amplified it to a point of being unfunny. You know, it's kind of, I think about like Thor Ragnarok compared to Thor Love and Thunder. Like Ragnarok, there was a lot of jokes, it was very goofy, but it was pretty funny the way it was written. And then Love and Thunder, it's kind of like they amplified it to an insane degree to the point where it's not even funny anymore. Now it's just painful because it feels like every single thing that you do is going to be a joke. I mean, Sia going in, like, what? I'm sorry, I can't hear you. And then getting him to say it louder to wake up his kid. And she's like, you're trying to solve a case. Like, be professional. You know, if Reddington did that to him, that would be kind of funny because Reddington's not an agent. He doesn't work for the government agency. Sia is coming from the CIA to work with the FBI. There's no reason. She doesn't even know Herbie. This is her first time meeting him. You really think she would go in and be like, what? Actually, I take that back. That was the second time meeting him. But still, she just met him. You don't go in, especially if you're working for the FBI, you don't go in, oh, I'm sorry, I can't hear you. Can you speak up a little bit? I made you loud, so now your baby's crying. Like, it's not funny. And then the whole conversation with him when he's sitting there doing his stretches, warming up for the foosball tournament, like, that's the type of stuff, if it were being said and they were going, can we stay focused here? That would be kind of funny. But instead, he's talking about it. Wait, did you say foosball? Wait, you're doing foosball tournaments? Tell me a bit about that. Like, is that really a thing? Like, I can't believe that's really a thing. Why do you guys care? You know, it's because I think about what's the name? I think his name was Glenn, maybe the one guy who was the short guy that ended up the actor passed away in real life. What made his character funny is the amount of times that Reddington went to him for help and he kept sidetracking him. Reddington's trying to stay on topic. He's trying to get him to stay on topic, but he's not because he's just constantly changing the topic, talking about something else, and it was pissing Reddington off. That made those scenes funny to me. In this, Herbie is changing the topic because he's now talking about, oh yeah, I got a big match coming up, got a tournament I got to get to, yeah, foosball. I can't believe they don't think of foosball as a real sport. It keeps constantly getting sidetracked with these little things, and the team, instead of making it a funny scene and going, can we stay focused, please, are actually, really? You play foosball? Like, you have to warm up for foosball? It's not as funny in that case. Because it's just, oh yeah, that's weird, isn't it? What's the saying? Comedy is based on tragedy, or something along those lines. Like, in almost every comedy, there's an element of tragedy. So somebody has to be in pain to get the best comedy. Not all the time, but the best comedy typically, it deals with somebody getting griefed, somebody dealing with frustration. I don't understand why they didn't have somebody on the team. Like, even if maybe Sia, maybe she's a goofball. We're just starting to see that with her little thing messing with Herbie, and then maybe whenever he's talking about foosball, she's actually like, really, you play foosball? Like, you have to warm up for that? But then you've got to have either Wrestler or Cooper going, can we stay focused here? Like, why are we talking about this? Why are we wasting time on, like, something just to add a little bit of bounce back? It can't just be goofy to goofy to goofy. You got to have goofy to straight man at some point, and nobody's being a straight man in the scene. So I don't know, just everything to do with Herbie in this was just, it feels like they don't really know what they're doing with him anymore. Like, they had some funny moments with him early on, where he's trying to deal with the kid, Reddington is helping him, and he's So great. Like that whole thing, it was a funny bit. The next time Reddington shows up, he's like, "Oh, thank you. Please come in." Funny thing, and now all of a sudden he's working with the FBI, and he's not funny anymore. They've overdone it with his character to a point of now it's painful, and it feels like we're wasting time here. So, anyways, that was all frustrating, and then Vesco, comes back to Reddington after hearing out Wu Jing and hearing, oh, Reddington's working with the FBI and he's working for them and he's helping put away criminals with them. So of course Vesco goes and tells him about all this stuff. Again, I still think Reddington planned this, and then Vesco goes back after we don't see that conversation between him and Reddington and goes, "Yeah, he confessed to it. Can you believe that? Well, you want to give him some pain? Hey, let's do it." I'm like, okay, yeah. So he's working for Reddington. Got it. And the thing is, I don't know what Reddington told him, and I'm sure we'll see what he told him later. And I'm willing to bet whenever we do see that conversation, he's going to be like, "Yes, you see, I knew he would probably contact you, so now I'm going to tell you this and this and this." And I don't know if he's going to tell him the truth or if he's just going to lie to him and be like, "Yeah, he thinks that, but here's what I'm really doing. Now, will you help me take him down?" But it's obvious. I mean, if you had showed us the scene with Reddington, if you showed Reddington telling him, "Yeah, I work with the task force, we put away bad guys," if you had showed that scene and showed Vesco getting pissed off and then leaving, and then that next scene with him and Wu Jing, then I'd buy it. I'd be a little bit more skeptical, and then maybe later on down the line we find out maybe that scene was Vesco retelling the story, or maybe he did storm out but then comes back and is like, "You know what? You probably have a plan in place. I overreacted. I'm sorry," and then you could have done something like that to play with our expectations, but when you just don't show the conversation between Vesco and Reddington, basically all you're saying is, "Oh, he did tell him, I guess." I mean, Vesco's telling Wu Jing, he definitely told him. It's the most obvious shit I've ever seen. And these writers, maybe the writers have changed season to season, I don't know, but they've not made things this obvious before. Sometimes it can be obvious to people who, like me, I've watched shows like this a lot, so I know what to expect. I know when to expect betrayals, when to expect people who are actually working for somebody else, and I've learned when to look for that. But this is so obvious that the lowest common denominator of audience member would be able to be like, "Oh yeah, he's betraying Wu Jing. He's actually working for Reddington this whole time. Ha! I'm smart." Well, yeah, because you didn't show the scene where he actually confronted Reddington about it, and Reddington told him the truth, and he got pissed off. Duh. Like, I don't understand. I don't understand, and it's really frustrating. Because this season started off so well, and I was actually interested, and I wanted to see more, and what they were doing with Vesco. I was excited to see how they were going to play it. But now it's just, oh, okay, so he found out from Wu Jing. Reddington had a sit down with him. We don't get to see the sit down. And now he's saying he's going to betray Reddington? Nope. Don't buy it. Don't buy it at all. But anyways, we'll move on to the next episode. I'll see you guys there. And now, episode 6, Dr. Laken Perillos' conclusion. And this is another one that I was not particularly fond of. Partially because it's a story that, I predicted in the last episode. Thankfully, it didn't go on too long, but pretty obvious throughout most of it. And on top of that, Laken Perillos is probably one of my least favorite blacklisters, just because, her whole thing is, oh, white people are so racist, and it's also, not even just that, it's just the hypocrisy. That's what I'm looking for. The hypocrisy of, hey, you're working for a white guy who doesn't respect you. Meanwhile, she's working for a white guy in Neville Townsend, and now she's been broken out of prison. Obviously, white, Asian, it's kind of up in the air, but he is of a lighter skin complexion, and she's working for him now to torture them. It's like, I don't know, she's just not the most interesting character to me. Like, what she does is very interesting in a, I guess, in a weird, twisted way of somebody who likes to watch stuff like Criminal Minds and dig into the psychology of what are they doing to their victims and all of that. Like, what she does is very crazy and interesting to think about, but her whole motivation, it's so, and I don't even know if how the writers are meaning her to sound, but it sounds so holier than thou, like, oh yeah, they're so racist. Well, claiming that a whole group of people is racist based on their race is racist of you. So I just hate it whenever people do that. It's like, you realize now you're the racist. Duh. But I don't know if they're writing her intentionally that hypocritical to show she's very messed up in her way of thinking, or if they're writing her as like, yeah, see, this is the type of people that racist people produce, is people like her that are trying to get justice for. If you're writing it like that, you're not hitting your marks. And it's just hard to tell because, I mean, so much of just modern day narrative fiction, all of that stuff, is so progressive in a way of we need to represent everybody and, you know, screw the majority and screw all of those people. I don't know. It's just hard to tell these days what the writers are intending. But as a character, she's just not interesting to me. Like, her whole thing is not interesting. Her thing with Dembe, honestly, I think what it means to Dembe is more interesting than her character. You know, him standing up for Reddington and how much he respects him, even after all this time, everything they've been through, the amount of times that he feels like Raymond has done things that are not the best or things that he disagreed with, but he still trusts him enough. He still respects him enough to not give away anything. Like, that just shows the integrity of Dembe and how great of a character he is, how loyal he is. And it's one of those things, some people might say loyal to a fault because, yeah, he's dealing with all of this pain, even though he disagrees with Red quite a bit. But that's how much he cares about his friends. He is willing to suffer to keep their secrets, even if he disagrees with them. And that is the type of friendship that I think I really respect. So, yeah, I think it's not that interesting when it comes to her. And like I said, I called the whole thing with Vesco in the last episode. Now, to their credit, they knocked out that storyline the very next episode. I'm glad. I'm glad this was not a season-long thing. I was really worried when this got brought up, and he was like, well, I'm all in. Let's do it. I was really worried this was going to be mid-season finale we get here, and Vesco walks in. He's like, actually, I was working for Raymond the whole time. And we'd all just be like, no. I'm shocked. I can't believe you were working with Raymond. That is why they didn't show us that conversation you had with them earlier. Wow. That just blows my mind. So, I'm glad they didn't stretch it out too long, but that doesn't mean that this episode was suddenly good. Like, it still is very predictable. The entire episode, he's acting like, you know, oh yeah, I'm totally working with you, and yeah, we got to stop that Raymond. He's such a little snake, and blah 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 blah. And I'm just sitting there going, yeah, you're working with him, you're working with him, you're working with him. And then by the end, Wu Jing figures it out. I'm like, yeah, okay, I mean, that just about wraps it up. I mean, it is sad for Vesco that that's how he dies, is working for Reddington, trying to get information. I will say it was pretty obvious, though. Like, the way he did it, the fact that he just dropped his phone on the ground, like, that is a little obvious of him to... yeah, okay, I'm good. I mean, I thought he would be a better liar than that. It does obvious even for me to see through. So... I don't know. These past two episodes, it's just, it's not well, I wouldn't say it's not well written. It's just not cleverly written, I think is what it is. There is a lack of creativity and a lack of true, I don't want to use cleverness again, but that's kind of what it is. You know, clever writing keeps you guessing. Clever writing makes you wonder, do I know what's going on? Because I mean, in the past, for instance, last season with Marvin Gerard, I knew, but I didn't know. You know, I had an inkling, I had an idea that he was the one behind it all. If it was going to be somebody in Red's organization, I suspected him. But I didn't know for sure. It was my main guess, but I didn't know. And then once they introduced Mr. Kaplan near the end of it and said, oh, maybe she's responsible, that's when I was kind of like, aha, I was right. because now that they started to give me something else, I saw the signs, I saw the clues that they were. I mean, even the fact that Gerard was the one who suggested that idea to Reddington. So I feel like that was a lot more cleverly written because I did have my questions about it. Even though I got it right, even though I guessed correctly, I didn't know for sure. These past two episodes, I've known everything that's going to happen 100% for sure. Like, the last episode, I knew for sure that the one guy that overpraised the judge, he was the one that killed her. I knew for sure that Vesco was working for Reddington whenever he went to talk to Wu Jing at the end of it. I knew for sure that, I mean, Dembe was not going to give up anything about the task force to Perillos. I don't know what's going to happen to her now. Like that, apparently Wu Jing's done with her. So I don't know if that means she's definitely gone or if he's just going to send her back to prison. I don't know what his plan is with her from here. I wouldn't mind if we don't see her again because she's not played. I mean, the actress that plays her is not playing her terribly, but again, it's just the writing on her and how they've written her character is kind of annoying to deal with. But yeah, I just feel like these two episodes have just been so predictable that I'm a little worried. I'm a little worried that this last season is going to have a lot of predictability going forward, and I don't want that. I want to be surprised. I want to be questioning what's going to happen next. And for the most part, I still do. I still don't really know where the season is going as a whole. But if you start making it where, again, you bring in Vesco and you have him sit down with Wu Jing, you have all of this stuff, in my mind, I can predict everything you did because of how you did it, because of how you set it up and how obvious you made all of it. And you didn't pull the rug out from under me at all. Because I saw everything that was going on. It was really easy to predict. So, anyways, I think that's about it for these three. So, let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What were your thoughts on these three episodes? Let me know. We can talk about and discuss all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe. Future Blacklist reviews. Also, check out the channel for other Let's Plays and all of that. But until next time, I hope you guys have a great day. I'll talk to you all later. Peace out.